All right, obviously this is a big day for the Moncton Wildcats franchise. We're here with Kevin Barrett, and I guess you're the guy that's been breaking this for, I want to say a week when I found out on the golf course, but I feel like it's been a little bit longer than that. Just how's it been for you the past couple weeks?
Well, I'm glad it's coming to an end. But I was just figured out like on the way here to this press conference today, when Gardner was introduced at the St. John Sea Dogs to the end of Memorial Cup was something like 36 days. Since Dan Lacroix was let go to today is 35 days roughly. So it's it was a long process, and I did. Some things I learned a lot about how things kind of get leaked and who's getting fed what, and what is true and what isn't true, and so that was a kind of a good learning experience, even though I'm not the youngest guy in the room anymore. But it's good. I've known Gardner for forever and a day, really, it seems, and he's from probably 35 miles away from where I grew up, and so we have that little connection. He used to play soccer. I used to play soccer, so I know him as a goalie from soccer, but obviously he's much more than that.
You've obviously got to know him a little more than we do over the years. What can we expect to see from him behind the bench?
Well, I think that you'll see a team that is high in energy, and I think that was probably a critique of the Wildcats at times, especially early in the games. He loves to develop teams that will come out with a high pace, and I think back to when they won the University Cup in Charlottetown a couple of years ago against in the final against Alberta. They were relentless. They got away, and it was just a matter if they scored first, it was over, and that's what would happen. They won 3-0, and I think in their last 4 games at the University Cup, the score is 18-0. Yeah. So defense is major for him. He loves to, if he has players that are going, he's going to use them in playoffs and tight games. You can see him shortening the defense. You can see him shortening the lines to 3 for sure. And but I think that it's the pace of play that you'll notice. And he's from our point of view, he's a guy that likes to keep things close to the vest. He can talk a lot about a lot of different subjects, but if he doesn't want you to know, you're not going to find out. For example, prior to the Memorial Cup in 2022, he was the question was who's going to start for St. John in goal, Thomas Couture or Nick Hurtubise, and it was going back and forth, and the question was who's going to start. A lot of coaches will tell you. He said, "Well, we'll see on game day." And so that's just that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that for a competitive advantage. And he wants to keep everything in about the Wildcats and may give the others an advantage. And he wants to absorb every little nugget he can for motivation, kind of like a we against the world, the underdog that anybody else may give them. For example, I'd love to see him coaching against Patrick Waugh. That would be fun.
Well, he might use this step to get into going against Patrick Waugh with the Islanders there, but we don't obviously know how long it's going to be, whether it's a 1 year or many more years than that. Again, Gardner is named head coach, but I think the more shocking news that I think a lot of people had is his son was named director of hockey operations and general manager. Comes from a player agent background, not much in terms of, first game will be his first, this will be his first draft, first day on the job kind of thing. Do you have any expectations on what we can expect from Taylor as a general manager? And I know there's probably some GMs that are maybe licking their chops as a brand new GM, but obviously when you got Gardner as your head coach, you have a face, and that does have some cachet. But what do you think we expect from Taylor in what's a cup or bust year, and this is a cup or bust move?
Well, I think it's going to be a collaborative process. I think that I'm binge watching Suits right now, and Harvey Specter's the win-win-win guy, and I don't know if you know that, but Mike Ross, he's the protege, and I think that Taylor will come into his own, and I think he's well respected in the agent community, from what I understand. In fact, he's had to get rid of 25 or 26 of his Q clients to be able to take this job, and he said that was as difficult as part of this process as he has. But he's been well regarded. He works with the Raw a sports agency, so he's really developed up that ladder. He's as they say in Boston, wicked smart. So he's got, during his time at UNB, he got his degree, and then he went and got his law degree. So and he is 34 years old, so it's not like he's young, super young, and probably at a good age to be doing this as far as his first job, I think. But
feel old.
yeah, well,
yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Gardner, who's I believe 64 now. We're not that far apart in age. So.
At the UNB conference yesterday, Gardner called Taylor a master recruiter. Do you think maybe that'll turn some fortunes into the Wildcats, maybe get some players on the team this upcoming season that we didn't expect?
Well, I think that he would be well suited and as well educated on who's out there from a free agent point of view at the university level. And Gardner really did praise him for a couple of those championships, bringing in some talented players that maybe others wouldn't have. And I think that was more than just a dad bragging up his son. That was legitimate. And you look at their record, especially since they've been good. They were winning every second year at University Cup, right? But then they started winning. I think it's 4 out of the last 6 that were competed for, and one was a devastating loss in which they had only 2 losses in the regular season. So I think that Taylor is well connected. I know that he has both. Him and Gardner have a close relationship with the St. John Sea Dogs, of course. A number of players were with the Taylor Head were Sea Dogs, so I think he's been in the game, and it's just like it's more than just bringing the young fellow along. I think that he has legitimate skills and he has legitimate smarts, and he's been raised. He's well educated, and obviously he knows the game both at the Q level with St. John's and Cape Breton, and then with UNB. So I think that Gardner mentioned it actually, that Gardner's game and UNB's fortunes seemed to move up once Gardner gained a true understanding of the Q process, once Taylor started with the Fall Devils back in 2006 or ish.
Yeah. So obviously the fans, they know Gardner, 50-0 this year, wins wherever he goes, basically won in a U18 championship with Caleb Denmoyer. We don't think he's going 64-0, but I think the biggest question, and I talked to Tozer about this on our last show, does his style of game translate? It is a 45-second shift, get off, go, go, go. How does that, do you feel, that seeing him more often, translate to a 64-game season with back-to-back nights, or 3 and 4 in Quebec, and the university schedules maybe a game every weekend type of thing? How does he bring that to the Moncton Wildcats?
Well, I think that's a fair question. He's going from 30 games in the regular season to 64 now. But I just talked to him, and he says, we did have 100 practices, and a UNB practice I think is a lot different than others, and it is relentless, and it's almost, there were a time where before the limits were reduced at the varsity level, that you could have 30, 32 guys on the ice practicing hard in practice, competing almost every week for a spot for those 2 weekend games that you would get. Nobody's going to enjoy those long trips to Rouen or Val d'Or, right? They take forever, and it takes a day to get back,
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be any enhanced expectations, but I think that Wildcats, if they can pull out the right moves, and success will breed success. I see them taking a run at it. There's other good teams in the division too.
Yeah.
The Eastern Conference is going to be something else next year. You look what Cape Breton did. You got to think Mermusi is going to be doing well. Chicoutimi, sore spot around these parts, of course.
Potentially Baie-Comeau.
And I don't know. There's something that tells me that don't fall asleep in Acadie Bathurst either.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So.
Looking at obviously we saw Gardner today wearing a suit, but in his street clothes he's in pretty good shape for someone his age. It makes Adam and I look pretty bad. So clearly strength and conditioning is a big part of his life. And how do you think his passion for fitness will affect the Wildcats roster?
I think it'll translate well. I think that he comes in with that cachet, and almost like whatever until a huge bump in the road.
Yeah.
But I can see guys like Etienne Morin and Yon Loshig, and I can see Preston Lounger just kind of going. And those are key guys. And obviously he's got the relationship already with Denoyer. So I think that that'll just feed off itself. And one of the things that the Sea Dogs talked about in those 30 days before the Memorial Cup in 2022, they've never worked harder. It was exhausting. Now, mind you, that was 1 month, so he does have to, pace himself. But never have they worked harder, and they were never in better shape. One of the key factors was William Dufour, who was the hero of the Memorial Cup, had a brutal playoff and kind of faded down the stretch. But he came back a new man. So the results will show, I think, at the end of, let's say, when's it start? The end of September. So by the 1st of November, they're going to start to see stuff that maybe they didn't see before. And that will just build and build and build.
So the draft here in Moncton, 3 weeks away. Obviously, no rest for the wicked. You gotta figure that out now. I guess just what should fans expect when the trade period opens up, or what do you expect for their first draft? Which, I mean, your first draft is big in itself in the Q with it being a live draft, but in your home building, first few weeks on the job, just what do you expect of this draft? And we don't want to take too much of your time, but what do you expect?
Well, there are lots of rumors out there about deals and futures that were made. I don't think all of those are true. So I think that some of those will be like that. I think that for the Wildcats, the most exciting days will be the 2 days before when that initial trade period opens, and then the window before. I do see a lot of deals. And then there's some futures coming back. I think that some teams are gaining some draft picks and that from other teams. And the Sea Dogs have picks 5 and 8. So there's going to be a lot of local flavor. I think because the Sea Dogs have those picks, who knows what kind of can transpire with whoever, right? Cape Breton's number 1 pick. Cape Breton has been good for, or Sylvain Couturier has been good friends with the Wildcats in the past. So I expect a lot of activity before, and then I expect even a lot of activity on the floor, because depending on who's coming and who's not, everybody has Tynan Lawrence going to the Sea Dogs. I don't think that's good. That's not for sure. And I would say that's probably better no than not at this point. But then you guys know, you've been around. Things change in a hurry. Liam Kilfoy would be a good example last year. So I expect a lot of activity, lots of fun.
Perfect. Well, I mean, you've been on this for a while, so you're probably going to need to get on the road or get some rest or go some lunch and file a story, man. Appreciate your time on this. It was a big day. And
first time, long time. That's what so here I am. I feel honored for the invite.
And we'll get you on in and around the draft that's here. So, again, the big news, Gardner MacDougall was named head coach. Taylor MacDougall was named general manager of the Moncton Wildcats.
What's up, fans? Did you just like that video you saw? Well, if you want more of that content, every Wednesday we have a podcast. Podcast post games after each home games, interviewing players and coaches. It's easy to get. Click the subscribe. Click the little bell so you don't miss any of it. But smash that subscribe button to the Wildcats podcast.